Hi there, welcome to the latest edition of my 10-minute moans. And the topic of this one is the funding for Ukrainian refugees, which the government have just abolished. Quite bizarre, actually. Probably remember back 2022, yeah, Nicola Sturgeon launched a super sponsor plan, which allowed those affected by the horrific war in the Ukraine to come to Scotland and get immediate visas and get them out of harm's way. And many families, many women, many children benefited from that. And before I move on, just to point out, this is something that's often misinterpreted, particularly in social media. But mainstream do it a lot in sort of political talk shows and stuff, where anybody who says anything about illegal immigration gets branded as hating all types of immigration. And I think that's total bunkum. I think it's fair to say that most people, most level-minded people, vast majority of people out there, totally understand why things like this come, although they may have quite opposite views about illegal immigration. To me, there's three types of people coming into this country. And this example is a genuine refugee situation. There's a war in the country, and people want to look after other human beings. You've then got legal immigration, where if there's maybe skill shortages, etc., in any specific fields, countries will bring in outsiders and give them visas and give them employment. And then the third one is illegal immigration, and that's the one that people, the vast majority of normal, like-minded, normal, level-headed people have issues with. So when they talk about that, it's sometimes being accused of not wanting all types of immigration, in particular things like the Ukrainian situation, which is completely different from people coming in illegally to the country under the radar. So however, this scheme was brought out by Nicola, probably remembers lots of nice selfies and photo ops over the nice virtual signalling headlines that were created at the time. And they're just bollocks, and I'll explain why. In November 2023, Scottish Government ministers verified that 17,463 people were arrived in our shores due to this scheme, and the councils provided, their words, a warm Scots welcome after £10 million from the government in a dish to cover additional costs. So again, nice and cuddly, and some great photo ops, some nice selfies, all that normal bollocks and stuff that we see from politicians. That was in November. They're telling us how great this scheme was. Previously in August, Humza, again in a nice photo opportunity situation, Humza Yousaf declared in August, "We'd do everything to support you, have homes in Scotland for as long as you need." Again, lovely, comfy, cuddly stuff there. However, in October, the Daily Record discussed COSLA, who is the council's umbrella organisation. They had concerned that there was no funding for this year. This is October. Humza in August was telling us how fantastic it was and how the people from the Ukraine were more welcome here. And in November, the government ministers were telling us how many folk had taken benefit, and this was all covered by the Scottish Government because they're such nice people. But in October, the umbrella group for the councils was telling us the money's stopped. Now, how did it stop? Well, probably Westminster's fault, because it always is. However, the Social Justice Minister, Shirley-Ann Somerville, she said that the government budget, Scottish Government budget, not UK budget, the government budget was extremely challenging and hard decisions were having to be made. And for that reason, I am unable to continue this funding for 2023 to 2024. There you go, finished. Now, Mandy Watt, who's the deputy lead in Edinburgh Council, she shocked at this decision. This is somebody that's dealing with front end, you know, because this is another thing politicians tend to do, particularly SNP ones, because they love a selfie. And they come up with all these fantastic ideas, but it's the people at the coalface that need to deal with it. And this girl, Lady Mandy Watt, the deputy leader in Edinburgh Council, she's shocked with the decision because it's her and the people that work in the councils that are having to deal with this stuff. You know, it's their job to house these people temporarily, give them any support they need when they first arrive, and then try and eventually get them onto the, if they're going to remain in the country, into permanent housing. Now, the latest figures I can find suggest that high 50s, possibly just touching 60% of the Ukrainians that came in, out of the 17,000, have been able to find more permanent accommodation. That means nearly half of them haven't. And we're into 2024 now. So what would that be? About 8,000, which will be, you know, a lot of them will be women and children. They're still in temporary accommodation. That needs paid for. They need support while they're there. Obviously, there's a lot of things the councils can do to help them acclimatise to the country. Funding stopped. So, Humza, bear this in mind, that if that stopped today, and it's, you know, ended it last year, it was stopped. Humza, and when was the party conference? Was it the autumn? The SNP party conference. He got up and announced two things. One I've already spoke about 100 times: freezing the council taxes, which means the councils that are looking after these people can't, you know, ask normal people for £5-10 a month extra, because it's been froze by Humza. But he also got up and declared that he was wanting to do the same for the people of Gaza. Now, where's the money for that coming from, Humza? You've got a vehicle just now to help displaced people from Ukraine, which your own Justice, what's her name again? Social Justice Minister, Shirley Ann Somerville, has already had to explain to people that that's had to stop because of budgetary restraints caused by your party's budget. But you're wanting to do more. So it's just actually a massive example of something that the SNP do quite regularly. And it's virtual signalling with no fiscal plan behind it. And how many times do we do that? Another idea that we give everybody free prescriptions. I'm sick hearing about this. And I've said a million times, in my whole life from childhood, people who were in poverty, struggling financially, have always had free prescriptions. So now, having free prescriptions full stop without any caveats, the only people that have actually benefited from that are the people that could always afford the prescriptions anyway, because those who couldn't afford prescriptions have always had them free. It's a virtual signalling policy with no fiscal planning behind it, because the true cost to our NHS with that stupid, not free prescriptions because that's not new, but extending free prescriptions so anybody, millionaires can get it, people earning 50, 80 grand that could quite easily afford that, whatever, I don't know, is a prescription 10, 15 quid. You know, anybody that can afford to pay that when they're out to get some medicine off a doctor's going to pay it. But no, SNP want a virtual signal and tell everybody we're a cuddly party and we want to give everybody free prescriptions. Total bollocks. Cost to the NHS tens if not hundreds of millions per year, giving people like me that could quite easily pay for a prescription, touch wood if I'm ill again in the future, don't need to pay for it. It's just, we're doing it again. We're virtual signalling. I'm saying again, Humza stands up and said two things at party conference, total virtual signalling without any fiscal plan. We're going to freeze council tax. Oh yeah, great. How are you paying for that then? Doesn't matter. It's just, it's like, hey, get a photo of me, I'm freezing, I'm, nice cuddly Humza and I'm going to help the poor. You don't help the poor. You're actually making it more difficult for the poor, because every pound you take off one part of your budget, you plonk it into other places. We've seen just yesterday your crazy, your reinvention of the duty on rates for large supermarkets that sell booze and fags. You know, it's just absolutely crazy. So it's going to just stop the virtual signalling, stop the selfies, right? Because I really feel sorry for the people in Ukraine, and I've met people from Ukraine who have benefited from this super, what was it called, visa thing that Nicola brought out in 2022. So, if you're not going to support the councils after your buzzwords and your virtual signalling policies, the councils can't operate the stuff that you're promising people. And now you're telling, openly saying you want folk for Gaza to do the same. Where's the money coming from? And do not start your pish with, it's Westminster's fault. If Westminster don't give you enough money, how did you manage to put the £10 million in last year? Because you did. In fact, probably more than that. I think it totally ended up about 13 million. So, you got enough money for it last year, but what's happening this year because of your black holes caused by your government and your policies, stuff like this has to get scrapped. I really, really can't wait. Also worth noting that I see in Westminster, the Tories are suggesting a autumn election for Westminster. Labour, Lib Dems and almost everybody else came out and said, no, have it early, have it in May, apart from the SNP. Do you know why? Because if there was a general election tomorrow, you would fail and fail miserably. So all your wee cronies down in Westminster that hate English, hate all the UK, hate Westminster itself, but take fortunes out of it, don't want an election in May. They want an election put back as far as possible, and I think the latest you could have one for Westminster's a year from now, January 2025. They'd be delighted with that, because it would give them another year of their, absolute mockery, behaving like children in government, in the government buildings in Westminster, and, fleecing their pockets, their expenses, and in some cases even funds, like that one that got found guilty for embezzlement. That was an MP in Westminster for the SNP. That's who yous are. Treacherous scoundrels that went judged by a totally separate rule book and everybody else. And now, your latest victims of your showboating, virtual signalling wokeness are the people of Ukraine that could actually do with your help, because you've stopped the funding. Or I don't know, is this funding, is it, the Ukrainians not important anymore? We've got to get cuddly to Gaza now. Is that what's going on here? Absolute scandalous. And the sooner you're out of my country, the better. Anyway, folks, if you like the podcast, give us a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe if you want to see more. There'll be some more recommendations just about here. But most of all, have a great day. Bye now.